Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next 30 minutes. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to hold bilateral talks with New Zealand Prime Minister Christopher Luxon in New Delhi. Issues of mutual interest, including trade and defence cooperation, to be discussed. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to inaugurate India's flagship conference on geopolitics and geoeconomics, the Raisina Dialogue. New Zealand Prime Minister Luxon to deliver a keynote address. US deports hundreds of alleged Venezuelan gang members under Alien Enemies Act to El Salvador prison despite court block. Ahead of Trump-Putin talks, Russia seeks a NATO exclusion in peace treaty, says Ukraine must be neutral, rules out NATO membership for Kyiv. And Indian films shine at Asian Film Awards. All We Imagine as Light adjudged the best film. Shahana Goswami bags Best Actress Award, while Sandhya Suri gets Best News Director Award for Sandesh. And on to the details. New Zealand Prime Minister Christopher Luxon, who arrived in India on Sunday, will hold talks with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Monday, covering various aspects of India-New Zealand relations. Prime Minister Modi will host a lunch in honour of the visiting dignitary. The visiting minister is also scheduled to meet President Draupadi Murmu. Luxon will attend the inaugural session of the Raisina Dialogue as the chief guest and deliver the keynote address. Prime Minister Luxon is scheduled to visit Mumbai on 19th to 20th March 2025, where he will have interactions with Indian business leaders and representatives from various walks of life. The visit of Prime Minister Luxon underscores the long-standing and enduring ties between India and New Zealand. It reaffirms the continued commitment of both countries to further strengthen the bilateral relationship across all sectors and deepen our close people-to-people ties. And in the spirit of deepening economic cooperation, India and New Zealand has revived long-stalled free trade negotiations. This significant step was marked by a meeting of India's Minister for Commerce and Industry, Piyush Goyal, with his New Zealand counterpart, laying the foundation of a momentous partnership towards strengthening the economic and trade ties between the two countries. The India-New Zealand FTA negotiations aim to achieve balanced outcomes that enhance supply chain integration and improve market access. This milestone reflects a shared vision for a stronger economic partnership, fostering resilience and prosperity. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate the Raisina Dialogue, India's flagship conference on geopolitics and geoeconomics, on 17th of March. The 10th edition of the Raisina Dialogue will be held from 17th to 19th of March 2025 in New Delhi. Prime Minister of New Zealand Christopher Luxon will join the inaugural session as the chief guest and deliver the keynote address. The 10th Raisina Dialogue will witness participation of representatives from about 125 countries, including ministers, former heads of state and heads of government, military commanders, captains of industry, technology leaders, academics, journalists, among others. Well, over the course, decision makers and thought leaders of the world will engage each other across conversations in various formats over 6 thematic pillars. The theme of the 2025 edition is Kal Chakra, People, Peace and Planet. Over 3,500 participants from about 125 countries will also be joining the dialogue in person. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has stressed that India is not neutral but firmly committed to peace. In a podcast interview with a researcher and AI researcher and US-based podcaster Lex Fridman, Prime Minister Modi emphasized that the world listens whenever India speaks of peace because it is the land of Gautam Buddha and Mahatma Gandhi. Referring to Russia-Ukraine conflict, Prime Minister Modi said India has close ties with both countries. He also said that India is not neutral in the conflict while reiterating that it stands with peace.
प्रॉक्सी वॉर चल रहा है। अब ये कोई आइडियोलॉजी नहीं है। आइडियोलॉजी ऐसी थोड़ी होती है, लोगों को मारो काटो, टेररिस्टों को एक्सपोर्ट करने का काम चल रहा है। और सिर्फ हमारे साथ ही नहीं, अब दुनिया में कहीं पर भी टेररिस्ट की घटना घटती है तो कहीं न कहीं सूत्र पाकिस्तान जाकर के अटकते हैं। अब देखिए 9/11 इतनी बड़ी घटना घटी अमेरिका में, उसका मेन जो सूत्रधार था ओसामा बिन लादेन, वो आखिर में कहां से मिला? पाकिस्तान में ही शरण लेके बैठा था। तो दुनिया पहचान गई है कि ये प्रकार से आतंकवादी प्रवृत्ति, आतंकवादी मानसिकता, और वो सिर्फ भारत ही नहीं, दुनिया भर के लिए परेशानी का केंद्र बन चुका है। और हम लगातार उनको कहते रहे हैं कि इस रास्ते से किसका भला होगा? आप आतंकवाद के रास्ते को छोड़ दीजिए, ये स्टेट स्पॉन्सर्ड टेररिज्म जो है वो बंद होना चाहिए। नॉन स्टेट एक्टरों के हाथ में सब छोड़ दिया है, क्या होगा फायदा? और इसकी शांति के प्रयासों के लिए मैं खुद लाहौर चला गया था। मेरे प्रधानमंत्री बनने के बाद मैंने मेरे शपथ समारोह में पाकिस्तान को स्पेशली इनवाइट किया था ताकि एक शुभ शुरुआत हो, लेकिन हर बार हर अच्छे प्रयासों का परिणाम नकारात्मक निकला।
He said Indians espouse harmony and stand for peace. Prime Minister Modi also highlighted the current geopolitical scenario around the world, addressing issues such as Pakistan's state-sponsored terrorism, the India-China relationship and the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Well, while speaking about Pakistan, Prime Minister Modi stated that every attempt by India to foster peace was met with hostility and betrayal.
2020 में जो सीमा पर जो घटनाएं घटी, उसके कारण हमारे बीच स्थितियां काफी दूरी की बन गई। लेकिन अभी राष्ट्रपति श्री के साथ मेरा मिलना हुआ, उसके बाद सीमा पर जो चीजें थी उसमें नॉर्मल से आ चुकी हैं। 2020 के पहले की स्थिति में हम लोग अब काम कर रहे हैं। अब धीरे धीरे वो विश्वास और वो उत्साह और उमंग और ऊर्जा वापस आ जाए, वो उसको एक थोड़ा समय लगेगा कि बीच में 5 साल का अंतराल गया है। हमारा साथ होना ना सिर्फ बेनिफिशियल है बल्कि ग्लोबल स्टेबिलिटी और प्रॉस्पेरिटी के लिए भी जरूरी है। और जब 21वीं सदी एशिया की सदी है तो हम तो चाहेंगे कि भारत चीन के बीच में स्पर्धा सब स्वाभाविक है, स्पर्धा कोई गलत चीज नहीं है, ये संघर्ष नहीं होना चाहिए।
Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi also emphasized the importance of strengthening ties between India and China despite past tensions. He advocated for dialogue over discord and cooperation over conflict as the way forward.
मेरा रशिया के साथ भी घनिष्ठ संबंध है, यूक्रेन के साथ भी घनिष्ठ संबंध है। मैं राष्ट्रपति पुतिन के सामने बैठ करके मीडिया को कह सकता हूं कि युद्ध का समय नहीं है। और मैं जेलेंस्की को भी एक मित्र भाव से उनको भी कहता हूं कि भाई दुनिया कितनी ही आपके साथ खड़ी क्यों न हो जाए, युद्ध भूमि में कभी भी परिणाम नहीं निकलने वाला है। परिणाम तो टेबल पर ही निकलने वाला है। और टेबल पे परिणाम तब निकलेगा जब उस टेबल पर यूक्रेन और रशिया दोनों मौजूद होंगे। पूरी दुनिया यूक्रेन के साथ बैठ करके कितनी माथापच्ची कर ले, उसे परिणाम नहीं आता है। दोनों पक्षों का होना जरूरी है। और शुरू में समझा नहीं पा रहा था, लेकिन आज जो इस प्रकार का वातावरण बना है उससे मुझे लगता है कि अब रशिया यूक्रेन, मैं आशावादी हूँ कि बहुत उन्होंने खुद ने तो गंवाया है, दुनिया का बहुत नुकसान हुआ है। ग्लोबल साउथ को सबसे ज़्यादा नुकसान हुआ है। पूरे विश्व में फूड, फ्यूल एंड फर्टिलाइजर उसका संकट रहा है। तो पूरा विश्व चाहता है जल्दी से जल्दी शांति हो। और मैं हमेशा कहता हूँ कि मैं शांति के पक्ष में हूँ, मैं न्यूट्रल नहीं हूँ, मैं शांति के पक्ष, मेरा एक पक्ष है और मैं उसके लिए प्रयत्नरत हूँ।
Prime Minister Modi also outlined India's ambitions in artificial intelligence, the global rise of Indian talent and the irreplaceable role of human intelligence in shaping technology.
एक बात आप शायद ज़्यादा लगेगी और हो सकता है किसी को बुरा भी लगे, लेकिन जब आपने पूछा है तो अभी मेरे मन में से निकल रहा है, मैं कहना चाहता हूँ। दुनिया एआई के लिए कुछ भी कर ले, भारत के बिना एआई अधूरा है। बहुत जिम्मेवार स्टेटमेंट मैं कर रहा हूँ। मुझे लगता है देखिए एआई डेवलपमेंट एक कोलैबोरेशन है। यहाँ हर कोई एक दूसरे को अपने एक्सपीरियंस और लर्निंग से सपोर्ट कर सकता है। और इंडिया सिर्फ इसका मॉडल नहीं बना रहा, बल्कि स्पेसिफिक यूज केसेस से के हिसाब से एआई बेस्ड एप्लीकेशंस को भी डेवलप कर रहा है।
And India's Home Minister Amit Shah chaired a review meeting in Guwahati regarding the implementation of the new criminal law in the Northeast. The Chief Ministers of 7 sister states of India, including Assam, Arunachal Pradesh, Sikkim, Mizoram, Nagaland, Tripura and Meghalaya, participated into the meeting. The Governor of Manipur also shared his presence. Additionally, top officials from the northeastern states were also present. And the budget session of Indian Parliament will resume on today, with both the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha set to meet. According to the list of business, the Lok Sabha will reconvene at 11 a.m. IST to take up key legislative matters, including the presentation and discussion of multiple reports from standing committees. Union Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan will move a motion for the election of 2 members to the court of the University of Delhi. Well, the session will also take up the discussion and voting on the demands for grants under the Ministry of Railways for 2025-26. The second part of the budget session of Parliament will continue till April 4th. And still to come, this edition of DD India Live. Fire at North Macedonia Nightclub leaves many fatalities. Injured victims transferred to Bulgaria for treatment. Ukrainian President Zelensky appoints Major General Andriy Hanatov as Chief of General Staff to speed up army reforms. And Vatican releases first image of Pope Francis in hospital as he continues treatment for double pneumonia.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked, we just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Pakshi Khurana. Moving on, the Trump administration has deported over 200 Venezuelans from the United States to a sprawling prison in El Salvador amid legal and human rights concerns. The deportations on Sunday took place despite a U.S. federal judge granting a temporary suspension of the expulsions order. The White House said in a statement that it wasn't defying the court, but at the same time argued that it was perfectly within its rights to ignore the judge's ruling. White House spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt defended the deportations, saying Trump was using his core powers as president and commander-in-chief to defend the American people from an urgent threat. A federal judge in Washington, D.C. had earlier blocked President Trump's application of the Alien Enemies Act, an 18th century law best known for its use in rounding up U.S. residents of Japanese descent and placing them in internment camps without trial during World War II. Trump had sought to use the act's seldom-used wartime powers to rapidly deport alleged members of Tren de Aragua, a Venezuelan gang that has been linked to kidnapping, extortion and contract killings. Well, once the United States has imposed tariffs on its major trading partners, it could engage in bilateral talks with countries on new trade arrangements. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the United States would retaliate against nations that had imposed tariffs on it. U.S. President Donald Trump threatened on Thursday to slap a 200% tariff on wine, cognac and other alcohol imports from Europe, opening a new front in a global trade war that has roiled financial markets and raised recession fears. Rubio, who did not give details of what the new deals could look like, said the United States would reset the baseline to ensure it was treated fairly. And updates on Russia-Ukraine conflict now. Russia has underscored its demand that Ukraine be excluded from NATO membership and maintain a neutral stance in any prospective peace agreement. Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Alexander Grushko, in a statement, emphasized the importance of including stringent security guarantees in peace accord. Grushko detailed that Russia expects these guarantees to ensure Ukraine's neutral status and prevent NATO countries from integrating it into their alliance, seeking robust assurances as part of the diplomatic negotiations. The Deputy Foreign Minister's statement was published by Russian media outlet Izvestia, reflecting Russia's firm position on Ukraine's geopolitical alignment and the broader security dynamics in the region. And U.S. President Donald Trump is expected to speak with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin this week on ways to end the three-year conflict in Ukraine. U.S. envoy for the conflict, Steve Witkoff, who met for several hours with Putin days ago, told U.S. News Channel that he thinks the two presidents are going to have a really good and positive discussion this week. Witkoff also said the teams of U.S. negotiators would meet counterparts from both Ukraine and Russia during the coming week. The U.S. envoy added that he believed a deal would be reached in the coming weeks. The United States last week proposed a halt in fighting in the conflict after talks in Saudi Arabia, which Kyiv accepted. Washington and Kyiv's European allies are pressing Moscow to accept it too. Putin, however, has given no clear answer, instead listing a series of conditions and raising serious questions over the proposal. Well, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Sunday appointed Major General Andriy Vanatov as Ukraine's Chief of the General Staff as Kyiv seeks to speed up army reform. Speaking during his nightly video address, Zelensky said Vanatov would be tasked with making Ukrainian troops more combat ready.
I made personal changes in the armed forces of Ukraine together with Commander-in-Chief Olinder Syrsky and the Ministry of Defense Rustem Umbrov. We decided that the new Chief of the General Staff will be Andriy NATO, a combat guy. His task is to maximize combat experience of our brigades in planning both defensive and offensive operations, as well as to actively develop the COP system.
Zelensky also said he had spoken to Canada's new Prime Minister Mark Carney and discussed sanctions on Russia and the G7 foreign ministers meeting that took place in the remote tourist town of La Malbia, Canada on Saturday. And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu seeking to dismiss the head of Israel's internal security agency, who swiftly called the move political and said the premier expected personal loyalty. Netanyahu and Shin Bet head Ronen Bar have been engaged in a public spat in recent weeks over reforms to the agency, which has been accused of failing to prevent the October 7, 2023 Hamas attack that triggered conflict in Gaza. At the same time, the Shin Bet has been conducting an investigation into some of Netanyahu's aides for allegedly receiving payments from Qatar. Previously, Netanyahu has accused Bar of being behind what he called part of an ongoing campaign of threats and media leaks.
I have had an ongoing lack of trust in the head of Sheen Belt, a distrust that has only grown over time. Due to ongoing lack of trust, I have decided to bring a proposal to the government to end the tenure of the head of Sheen Belt.
Well, people injured in a fire in a North Macedonia nightclub that left at least 59 dead were brought to Bulgaria for treatment on Sunday. About 148 people were hospitalized in the capital, Skopje, Kokani and in surrounding towns, as well as being taken to neighboring countries for treatment. Authorities have arrested about 20 people in connection with the fire in the town of Kokani, including government officials and the manager of the Pulse nightclub. Well, the public prosecutor said authorities had also arrested members of the band and the son of the club owner. The death toll currently stands at 59. North Macedonia's Prime Minister said an investigation into the nightclub fire had found the club's license was not legitimate. Raisina Dialogue said the document had been issued illegally by officials from the Economy Ministry and said there were many questions to be answered, promising accountability at all levels.
We have information that at the time of the disaster, the nightclub had a falsified license issued in March 2024 for a bribe. The document was issued illegally with the legal stamp of the Economy Minister and signed by the then officials of the same ministry. There are many questions there that the investigation should answer.
Well, Thames Water, Britain's biggest water supplier, will find out from a court this week whether a $3.88 billion debt lifeline can proceed as its battle to avoid a state rescue continues. The company is at the centre of a public backlash against the UK water industry. Mismanagement of Thames Water is blamed for sewage pollution in rivers and for an £18 billion debt pile, which has left it on the brink of financial collapse. It secured court approval for the new £3 billion loan in February, giving it 2 years to get its finances back in order. But there were appeals from a group of junior creditors and public interest group. The Court of Appeal will announce its decision this week following a 3-day hearing on March 11 to 13th. The new debt underpins its finances until May 2026, by which time it needs to restructure its debt and raise new equity. Meanwhile, it is also trying to win the right to charge its customers higher prices for the coming 5 years through a competition appeal. Well, several violent tornadoes have been ripping through the U.S., leading to at least 36 fatalities after a storm system rapidly progressed across the country. Portions of Pennsylvania, New York and Mid-Atlantic and Southeast states were still under a National Weather Service watch for damaging wind and tornadoes. In a White House statement, President Donald Trump said he was monitoring the tornadoes and storm, announced the National Guard had been deployed to Arkansas and pledged help to state and local officials. The storms that hit the South and the Middle East headed east on Sunday. Thousands of people had no power in the affected areas as of late afternoon on Sunday. Well, the Vatican on Sunday released the first image of Pope Francis in hospital since the 88-year-old pontiff began treatment for double pneumonia. The Pope was admitted to Rome's Gemelli Hospital on February 14th with a severe respiratory infection that has required evolving treatment. He's not been seen in public since. The Vatican said the Pope had celebrated Mass with other priests in the chapel on Sunday. The Pope had been receiving oxygen throughout his treatment in hospital. And the 18th Asian Film Awards held on March 16th celebrated the brilliance of Indian cinema. Payal Kabadia's All We Imagine as Light clinched the prestigious Best Film Award, while Shahana Goswami's powerful performance in Santosh earned her the Best Actress accolade, marking a triumph moment for Indian talent. Directed by Sandhya Suri, Santosh also secured the Best New Director award, showcasing India's storytelling prowess. Held in Hong Kong, the award spotlighted 30 films from 25 countries with Indian entries standing tall. The event, established by the Busan, Hong Kong and Tokyo Film Festivals, continue to honor Asian cinematic excellence and foster regional collaboration. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India Live. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from within across the world with the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both the Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code in the screen to download now. Well, we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Kurana from all of us in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.